Hi everyone, thanks for watching. You can support our work on our website ageoftruth.tv. And please like our videos, subscribe to our channels on YouTube, BitChute and Brighteon. And remember to hit the bell for notifications. And follow us on Instagram and Facebook. To be sure not to miss any of our shows, you can sign up for our newsletter on our website ageoftruth.tv.
So, Nicola, where are you in England?
Actually, at the moment, I'm actually in Sweden.
Are you in Sweden, next door
Yeah,
to us?
yes,
Really?
yeah. So I'm actually with my new partner, Thomas, and Thomas loves your work. And he sort of said, so he follows you, and he's like, oh my God, you're going to be speaking to Lucas. So neighbours. So I'm in Trollerton, on the west coast. It's probably about 45 minutes from Gothenburg.
Hello and welcome to this edition of Age of Truth TV. I'm Lucas Alexander in Copenhagen, Denmark. It's the 14th of May 2024, and our special guest today is a British extraterrestrial and interdimensional channeler, star language interpreter, near-death experiencer, Reiki healer and teacher who transformed her life dramatically from facing the darkness and moving into the light. Nicola Light. Good afternoon from Copenhagen, Denmark, and welcome to our viewers on Age of Truth TV. Please like our videos, subscribe to our channel, and hit the bell for notifications. We have a really exciting and fascinating show for you today with a lovely and interesting British lady who is currently in Sweden, our neighbor country here in Denmark. She's in Trollhättan in north of Gothenburg, and it's wonderful to have her on the show today because we have a lot of really interesting things to discuss. So first of all, welcome here on Age of Truth TV, Nicola Light.
Thank you. It's really a privilege to be on your channel, to sort of be of service and to give my perspective of my reality, to assist people to sort of deepen into their inner wisdom.
Amazing. And you've had quite an extraordinary and very, let's say, unusual journey. Certainly, you transformed your life dramatically. You've said that you were suicidal, and then suddenly you were facing this incredible darkness, and now moving, and then you moved into the light, and you became Nicola Light, which is wonderful. But that journey in itself, and before we go into you being able to speak these star languages, and I guess we're going to hear some of that, and a lot of things about the world and the work that you do, please first of all tell the audience a little bit about that whole journey and your backstory and history.
I was married for a very, very long time and got married when I was very young. And it was a very beautiful relationship for many, many years. And things sort of shifted a little bit as things sort of move on. And then there was some sort of traumas that were happening in my life with family members and just, things that sort of spark the inner light to start to see the shadow. And during that time, that sort of journey sort of took me on this sort of downward spiral within the relationship because I started to change. We did sort of try to, I sort of did try to rescue him into the light, but he wasn't having any of it. He thought I was going completely insane as I started to meditate an awful lot. And I then started getting very heavily into energy work. So being aware of my energetic bodies, and then started then moving into sort of deep intuitive breath work. And things sort of started to evolve whilst I was doing some healing. One particular day where my hands started to move about over the top of the body, and I wondered what was going on because it felt very much out of myself. My hand almost sort of felt that it wasn't mine. And so I started to then get an awful lot of information coming through from spirit, and then also sort of galactic levels of conscious vibration started to connect with me, and I physically felt them, started to see sort of internal visions come in online and external visions, which was quite surreal. So I started to question my own sanity as I was sort of moving through that dark night of the soul, and then sort of deepened and deepened and deepened into it. And then my light language really kicked in, and I started to code myself. And through that journey, I sort of really started to remember who I was, and the connection of my mission, and the availability to connected galactic forces of energy, which I would call multidimensionality. And that wisdom started to increase and increase and increase. And now it sort of leads me to today, where I deconstructed all of my old life into my new life, where I help people upgrade their energy and shift them out of what I would call an illusionary field, where we're really sort of plugged into a sense of mind, and then we move down into the heart. So that sort of coherent heart space, and shifting people with light codes which come through in a pure channeled state, allows me to then sort of move in through all time and space. And it sounds all a little bit sort of woo-woo and sci-fi. I do hold very high sort of esoteric tendencies. And my new partner, Thomas, he sort of grounds me into my physical, because we must ground it all in. We can float all up here, but are we going to actually anchor it down into the physical body, into this reality, is another task in itself, isn't it?
And we still need that physical sensation, right? Of, well, togetherness and being close to somebody in physical form, and maybe also sexually, obviously, but also, you know, just people in general. And remember that there is this balance, the esoteric and
Yes.
being close to where we are, the earth.
Yes. And before that relationship sort of came in, I was very much an individual that would literally high fly off into the esoteric and not necessarily actually ground in. And then I had this sort of understanding that a relationship was going to come in, and then in comes Thomas. So it's a big shout out for Thomas, because he absolutely loves your channel. So I just thought I'd mention him.
Oh, that's wonderful. I'm thrilled to hear that. And well, give him my regards. I hope he will enjoy the show. But let me just ask you first, Nicola, when did you first experience this? Did this happen overnight, that you suddenly began channeling this, and did you understand what it was? Did these extraterrestrial or interdimensional beings explain who they were? And you, of course, you would think that you would be losing your mind. But was this when you were very close to committing suicide?
It was very interesting. Actually, I was living in America for about a year when I really had this real dark sort of sensation within me that started to show itself. And I've experienced this with many of my clients that I work with, is that there is this suppression that is within the energy that creates a sense of, and I'm going to use the words infiltration of the light. If you could imagine that there's a light being that's starting to shine in the illusionary field, and this sort of energy sort of comes up, and anything that wants to dampen and suppress the light in the hijack system would want to sort of come in and dampen the light. So this happens an awful lot with light workers that hold a very high frequency. And so when we move into the fourth dimension, start to move up into the fourth dimensional field, where there's the lower fourth bandwidth, this sort of energy sort of comes up and then starts to dampen. So there was a moment where I knew that I had this voice coming in saying, go heal yourself, go do this, go to a hotel room, leave your family, go and do this, this, and this. So I had this real sort of sense of, I need to go and do this. And it was so powerful that over sort of rode my ego, my sort of safety cap as such, the ego that keeps you safe. And it was just in this moment that my ex literally slapped me across my face, and it shocked me back into my body. It was really crazy. I haven't spoken about this before, actually, so it's right interesting that this needs to come up because somebody needs to hear this. And it literally sort of shook me back into my body. I thought, why would I even consider doing that? Why would I consider doing that? And that particular night, in that now moment, I literally laid in bed and I prayed. I literally went in and said, show me the light, because this isn't right. This doesn't resonate with me. This deepest, darkest experience that I found myself in was just, no, I'm here to do much more than this. And as a result of that, I'm getting all tingles now. As we then decided to go back to the UK, I started then to deepen into the meditation. And during that time of meditation, I would be at the bottom of my garden meditating sort of 3, 4, 5, 6 hours, literally just wanting to just work into the light. And I was searching on YouTube. I was sort of constantly headphones in, doing my housework, doing my bits and pieces in the house. And then I started to sort of like spark an interest of searching, which a lot of people move from that depth of darkness into searching. And many of your viewers would be in that state. And through that searching, I started to connect with people that really resonated with their work, and started to sort of see all these different things that were coming in. And I was opening up to the conspiracies and all of that sort of thing. It's a very long answer to your question. But during that time, when I then went into Reiki and having the attunement to that, I then started getting the connections with earth plane, mediumship, psychic abilities started to come in. Then I started then to download information from different realms within this reality. And it may sound a little bit crazy to those that are more in the mind, but I started to connect with the elementals, dragon energy, also angelic energy. So it started with that bandwidth of frequency. Then it then started then to move into the connection to a galactic frequency of light. So if you could imagine within the matrix, we have a bandwidth which have different dimensions that we can't actually perceive from our sensory perception unless we're actually starting to open up our energetic field. So once I then started to connect to that and strengthen my energetic field, then I was safe to move through the lower fourth and then up into the galactic sense of being. And there I started getting the visions, the information coming through. The physical body started to really surrender into downloads of information that was coming through me. And then that's when everything started to shift. So it was a journey within it. And it did start, first of all, with mediumship. It started with mediumship, spirit side into fourth, and then moving up into high frequencies.
Sounds really amazing, but you must have had this ability from when you were very young, or I mean, I guess you were born with it really, and came maybe yourself from a certain place or special place you can talk about. But I mean, not everybody can go through those layers and those levels that you talk about, and then suddenly opening up to go to another dimension and to download all of these messages and get all of, understanding and interpret those star languages that you can that you speak, and we'll get into that as well. But please just address what you said. That sounds startling, with your ex-husband beating you, or I mean, at least slapping your face. I mean, had you gone through domestic violence before? Had that ever happened before?
It was more actually on to actually sort of say it was actually more about like get your act together type of thing rather than a violent thing.
Was it because he was frustrated and didn't know
Yeah.
how to handle you? Or, I mean, of course, this is not the right way to do it, but I mean, was that
Mm.
because you were like going a little bit bonkers, excuse the expression, but I mean,
Yes.
going to
Yes.
another level that no, where people couldn't reach you? What about your children?
Yeah, it was a very difficult time for all of us as a family unit. And I have spoken about this sort of quite readily. And you know, he's a very lovely person in his own right, but he really, you know, I can see his light. So I really do want to sort of state that, you know, but he sort of slapped me really to sort of get my senses back into gear. However, you know, sort of things did shift when I did leave, which actually was what you're talking about. So
Well, it
not going
created
into
a
it.
shift instead, didn't it? You kind of
Yeah,
slapped you
shifted.
onto another
Yeah,
dimension, I guess.
yeah. It might have actually been. It might have been the hand of the slap that actually sent me into that reality. So actually, you know, it is a gift. You know, with all of these
The not
experiences that we
so
have.
hidden hand.
Yeah.
Well, it's great that we can laugh about it now, but I guess a lot of
Yes.
people have different, well, experiences, and whatever will take them on that journey that they were destined to go on. I guess that's,
Mm,
just,
yeah.
it's part of your life experience.
It's not to belittle anybody that's going through domestic violence, you know, and you know, I understand that also. So I've been in a lot of positions of experience. It's not to belittle any of it. But it's seeing it from a high perspective that, you know, these realities and these experiences of suicidal thoughts, of, you know, of senses of abuse that actually shift us and literally shocks us into a light ignition that then we start to search. And it happens time and time again with, you know, speaking to so many people, is that there's so many times that actually there is this trauma that sparks somebody into their searching, whether they move into more of that intuitive sort of wisdom within igniting, or whether it's searching outside of ourselves, taking courses, information, reading books. It doesn't matter which angle you're going to ignite your light, as long as you start to remember who you are. You know, it's that ignition of sovereignty. It's reclaiming yourself back into yourself rather than being suppressed.
Absolutely. And
Yeah,
that's a very important message for everybody who's in the
yeah,
spiritual and esoteric field, and of course in the field of conspiracy and truth research. And in fact, even though some people do separate those things and can't connect them, it really is fully and 100% connected. I mean, the truth and conspiracy field and the spiritual and esoteric field. And
mm,
it's that connection that, that makes you understand how the whole thing works and who we are, basically.
yeah.
But I was just thinking that being psychologically challenged all of a sudden, for whatever reason, and you can talk about that if you want to, but then to become suicidal, it's actually
Mm.
quite a step, right? I mean, you've said in another interview that you were massively suicidal, that you really thought about it, and I mean, what even made you? How did you reach that point?
So that it just was it becomes a sort of sense within yourself is that this life does not resonate with me. It feels like I really don't want to be here. I want to go home, you know? And looking up at night to the stars and sort of saying, like, just come down and pick me up. You know, it was that sort of feeling. It was like, why am I here? This doesn't resonate. I don't like this. What's happening? It's that sort of that confusion, you know. And as a child, you know, like many of us are like workers would be, you know, I don't fit in. I don't fit into this reality. What is this about? That's not fair. How come people treat animals so badly? How come this, the monetary system is so corrupt? What's happening here? What's happening here? And this confusion sort of intensified the more that I started to see the shadow within me that was programmed into a system that didn't resonate, because that's not my true light. It's none of our true lights. It's the illusionary field that we're tapped into that was basically being shown to me, literally shown to me, that made my ego, in that human sense of that inner child, to not want to be here. And I see it an awful lot with people that and a lot of them push through that. So if anybody's feeling that, please push through the illusion that you're not supposed to be here. Because once you ignite that wisdom within and start on with your mission work, then it all starts to fit into place of, why am I here? There's my mission. Then you then start to really embody it within yourself, and you start to really flow into life, and you find the joy, and you create heaven on earth for yourself, and you shift out the reality of all of that dense energy of anger, fear, and all of that goes on top of it. And then you start to see the light, and you start to see the shadow. You start to move that energy out of your field. You start to remember who you are. You start to remember your passion. You start to feel into the energy. You start to understand from a wisdom point of view rather than an intellectual. And that then starts to then sort of evolve. And then you're like, yes, come on, bring me my people. I've got all my tools in my toolkit to enable me to assist others. And I'm here. I'm of service. Come on, bring it in, bring it in, bring it in. Is to see who you are not, to then spark who you are, and then walk through that path of that beautiful journey that we're all here to do, is to be of service.
But even though we might feel, a lot of us, misplaced on this planet, or at least in this dimension, in this holographic illusion, well, there's still that thing that you had children. I mean, and even though you felt out of place and you didn't feel that you belong here, but I mean, becoming suicidal when you have children, I mean, how is that? How does that? How do you go that far out?
Yeah, it's a really difficult one, isn't it, really? That when you're in that stickiness, when you're in that energy of it, there is there's no logic to it. When you're in that place, of that energy, it's like being in the soup of it. You can't see it. You can't see any of it because you're in such density. So we don't have any consideration for anyone else outside of that, because all we do is we internalize the darkness. And if we look at things from a high perspective, then obviously, then from a sound mind, you would then say, well, why would you consider that? Why would it? But when we are in that sticky sense, there's all you see is that. And, after the aftermath, you unpack it, you evolve through it, you work through that.
So am I right in assuming that how you explain being suicidal is quite similar to how a lot of people explain anxiety when they're having anxiety attacks? And that's totally impossible almost to explain to people that have not experienced having anxiety. It's almost like they talk about almost like going into another frequency, another level, another zone that you only enter when you are in that frame of mind and when anxiety hits you. And that otherwise it's not possible to really explain or justify what that is if you haven't experienced it. Is that the same being suicidal and having those thoughts, that you're in that other frame of mind and on that other frequency level, and you cannot move back from it? Because that probably would be the best way of even trying to understand it or to tell people what it's all about, because otherwise it doesn't seem very rational that you would want to do that, having children and people around you.
It's something that's really sort of very sort of plain in sight for me now, being through the journey of it, is there is so much mind control here. And it's that frequency of mind control that disables the logic into a sense of infiltration of who you truly are. There's an illusionary field, and when I tap into the energy of it, there is this sticky, almost webbing system that is around people's light system. So if we're a pure light frequency, we're holding a high vibration with a central column of light that runs fluidly. If you go into somebody's energetic field that holds a distortion of seeing that darkness within, because that's not who they are, you pick up on the energy that is it feels very sticky. And sometimes the people are in almost like a cocoon. And sometimes you sort of there's a visualization that comes into mind that unzips them, almost like a pod of energy. There's a webbing of energy. And so when I go into the energetic field of people that I work with, is that the distortion is held within another dimension that distorts the reality that we are in. So it's a multi-dimensional field of illusion that comes in that suppresses the mind from logic into igniting the wisdom within. So it's like a hijack. It's a mind control system that is actually coming in from another reality.
It's like being
Yeah.
hijacked by archons or jinns or well, demon. Well, it's
Yes.
a kind of demonic possession in a way.
Yeah. Yeah. Quite. Yeah.
And a lot
Yes.
of these archons and jinns and demons, they feed on human fear, angst, anxiety,
Mhm.
and all of our really negative emotions.
Yes. There's a different sort of perspectives within all of this. There's an outward force of mind control, and there's also an internal system that needs to be released within us, meaning there's a bandwidth of energy that we're enabled to move into, but we can only hold a certain amount of frequency of light. So we must let go of all of those inner demons, all those inner traits, all those ancestral lines, all those incarnational looping systems. So we must see within ourselves to upscale ourselves into the new system, into downloading high levels of consciousness. But so that's an internalized, but an externalized is prevalent within this reality. We can only see this with so many people in the collective that are walking around blinkered on with their phones, mind controlled. And we see this. We see this in our family members. We see their light, but can we wake them up into the reality? We can't. But if you go into when they are ready for the shift, when enough is enough, then we can then move them out with a sense of commitment into going into the layers of the distortion and releasing them from the cause contracts and the hooks within the system that keeps us into these cocoon spaces, into these literal webs of esoteric within the lower fourth dimension. And this is the work that I do. So I assist people to rise into their higher frequencies so that you really truly strengthen and energetically amplify your light, that nothing can connect to it, because you know who you are. And this is why it's so important that we start to embody ourselves. We start to really embrace our energetic fields, aware of our physical body, our emotional body, our mental body, our light body, our astral body, our our brightness of who we truly are, and start to really anchor that into this physical body.
And in your work, do you also work with people with entity removal if they
Mm.
do have archons or jinns or whatever it's called, if they do have those entities feeding on them and their
Yeah.
emotions? And can you
Hmm.
spot that? Can you tell if somebody has been invaded by some of these interdimensional forces and then get rid of
Mm.
them?
Yeah, it's my speciality. It is my speciality. It was actually a journey that actually in the very beginning when I started removing sort of lower dimensional beings, I actually freaked out a bit. It did scare me. I cannot lie about that. And I would sit there with my higher self and say, why would I even consider doing this sort of work? This is crazy.
And
But
did you
now
remove your own demons? Is that what you're saying?
yeah,
You,
yeah,
rem
we
you,
do it
you
ourselves. Yeah.
so okay, so you spotted those demons, those well entities feeding on you. You could tell, or
Mhm.
they were visible in a way to you, or what? How do you know?
Yeah, it's a really sort of crazy to mind, and many of your listeners will probably go like, "Oh my God, she's a right old nutter." Um, but we can only speak from experience, okay? So from my own perspective, I've released lower dimensional aspects of myself by my codes. So I move into my light codes, I download my information, and I physically felt them release from my system. There was an overlay at one particular time that I actually saw sort of overlays of energy that was coming and entering into my field. So I could physically see these entities within my energetic field. And I released them through really anchoring in my light. And the mantra that I actually used was I did some mantra from a guy called Matt Kahn, which was I am the light I am. And I sat there for weeks upon end, speaking this mantra into being. And then I was able to release these galactic forces.
When you
Um,
saw them, Nicola,
mm,
when you saw them, when they were
yeah,
visible to you in your mind's eye, or maybe even in front of
mm,
you, do also explain that. What
yeah.
did you see? What did they look like? Who were they?
That oh gosh, I wasn't going to necessarily talk about this, but it's an absolute horrific story that I went through at the time. It was actually
Don't
I
spare us, my dear. We've heard
it was a
everything on this channel.
Yeah, so I was actually got caught up in a galactic war, which sounds a little bit crazy now when I look back on it. There were sort of several people around me that was assisting me at the time, so it wasn't actually done just by purely by myself, which was a very interesting experience now I look back on it. But when I used to look in the mirror, I literally had slits in my irises, and it was a
Like a
reptilian.
reptilian.
hmm and as I looked in the mirror, I could see a reptilian look back at myself like an overlay. And my neck literally sort of had these sort of lines that was going down here. And I thought I was going completely crazy.
Oh my
Um,
God.
yeah, it was really very sort of at the time I thought, oh my God, I literally felt, and this is no joke, I literally felt that there was like a metal um, uh, appliance upon the head, and I've seen this before with other people. Is there's like it almost feels like it's bolted into the head, and this cap system, and this cap system sort of sat here, and it prevented me from moving into a higher frequency of light. So I had to really sort of surrender to go inwards, and I shut my system down. I literally just shut everything down. And then some beautiful people sort of came in and they sort of shut down the portals within my system. Then I started then working with, it was the Blue Avians actually that came in to assist me. And I had literal, I literally had like a surgery where I could not move, Lucas, on the bed. And I lay there. I really needed to go to the bathroom, and it went on for probably about 6 hours. It was crazy, and I
Like
could not
sleep
move.
paralysis.
Yeah, but I physically felt them going into my energy, helping me shifting this from another dimension. It was almost like it was like a deep hypnotic sort of feeling. And I've had this happen a couple of times, and one actually the other week was that your physical body goes into it almost like a stasis, and then you feel the beings around the bed, and they came in and then assisted me to remove AI. implants within my system that then hooked. And when eventually, it was probably about 8 hours later, gosh, I'm sort of listening to it now. It sounds really crazy, but 8 hours later, I could manage to actually start to move my fingers a bit. And then I had heard these sort of voices saying, "It's okay, just move into your body, just ground yourself into this system." So I was like, okay. So the disconnection to this infiltration had been sort of supervised by these beings that came into, well, basically rescue me into sort of starting my system back up again. And literally, I had this pain that was shooting in here, almost like pins in here. And when I went to the bathroom, eventually got to the bathroom, I literally saw red dots here on my, and she was like, "What's going on? This is all very crazy." But after that, the connection with my galactic forces would just sort of come on really massively came in. Then there was another sort of galactic surgery that came in that took this force of energy off, and then I literally then started to expand. So it was a journey that I was going through, where my light was seen, where I was coming on brighter and brighter and brighter, but my system was sort of shut down by me being seen. And I see this time and time again with an awful lot of light workers that step into spiritual ego.
Was this in the early beginnings when you didn't really know who you were and the abilities that
Yes.
you had? And also when
Yeah.
you saw in that mirror and you saw that you looked or were like shape-shifting into
Mm-hmm.
a reptilian, did you start questioning whether or not you actually were a reptilian in origin?
That's another subject in itself. It's a very, very interesting subject because I went in deeper into the connection with my galactic self. And I was asking to myself, okay, so this was probably about 7, 8 years ago, right? So it was quite some time ago, but it was in the very beginning when I started to really start to expand my energy. And so that sort of like happened, which was sort of sounds a bit crazy now to my ego. My ego started to kick in. But then I started to ask questions when I went deeper into the connection to my higher self, to my galactics. Remember, I went through from this reality, angels, fairies, beautiful, flowy, flowy stuff, light and love, opening up, boom, big energy downsurge, like suppressing the energy because they could see my capabilities to connect and upgrade energetic fields. So they're like, okay, we're going to shut Nicola down then. So that got done. And then as I sort of shifted through the reality, I started to connect with who am I? Where am I from? Which many, many people ask. And in a vision that I actually saw that came in was it was like I've spoken about this before. It was like a movie screen. It was really very weird. It was like a projector that came in, and I was in meditation, and I saw it within my third eye. There was a picture like this, da, 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 and then it then shone itself forward, and it was a reptilian in a suit. And I said, "Who is this?" You could see this reptilian sort of smiling back at me. And they said, "This is an aspect of yourself." And I said, "Oh, okay, this is really, really weird. Now this is crazy stuff. Like, okay, I have an element of reptilian within me. Okay, right." So so I deepened into that, and then a lot of wisdom was coming forward into the different multi-dimensional aspects that were coming in, because I wasn't quite getting the fact of that you can come from this star system, this star system, this star, because we hold fractals of connections to multi-dimensionality. So we're not just coming from one star system, we're coming from a multitude of systems and embracing all of that into the physical human body.
Isn't there an original soul or spirit form that we have where we come from a certain place and that's that one place that maybe came from source or or
Yeah,
whatever. I mean, we do hear that the human race is a cloned race, and that we are a mixture between reptilians and hence the reptilian brain, and also
mhm.
maybe the Nordics, the Pleiadians, the Lyrans, whatever. Maybe you can elaborate on that.
Mm.
That's what a lot of people talk about, at least. But I mean,
Yeah.
in our original form, the spirit form,
Mm.
don't we come just from one specific place?
Yes. So if we're all one, then everything that is within the one can be connected to. So if we identify only as a Palladian, we're only going to identify with one frequency of light. If we're going into oneness, then we are reptilian. We are all that is. We are everything. So therefore, we are everything. So, but there is an origin of the journey of connection from the last port of call, as such. My primary galactic journey was from, so my last journey, if we look at, is quite complicated in, sort of in the context of things to actually explain it with words. But the last port of call was my Palladian aspect. So my strong primary star seed is Palladium. But I also can connect to Arcturian, and I download information and light codes from my Arcturian aspect of self. So I'm gathering myself back in through all time and space. Okay. So what was shown to me, because I wasn't getting it, I really wasn't getting it. And then I then realized, it is a fractal. It is a fractal of who I am. It is a multi-dimensional aspect. And it is held within the DNA structure of my physical body that enables me to connect to those aspects of self. So in a lineage within my physicality of my DNA structure of my mother, my mother's mother. So it's along the mother line that holds the source of the DNA structure. And so if we look at the hybrid system, within this physical body that I reside in as a soul of light, I can connect to all those multidimensionalities through my DNA structure, lineage, perspective of being. So the more we open up into our light of our pure knowing of self, is that we know that we are both light and dark, but we focus in the rise and ascension into oneness that is everything reptilian, this. But we need to see which we are not. We're not the aspect that is infiltrating. We're not the souls that would sort of rape and pillage. We're not that within the reality, which is an illusion of it. And it's moving through that into the light that we must focus on. And the awareness of who we are is that we are everything.
But you're saying that it's part of our DNA structure, but in a way, DNA can be measured, and I don't know if mitochondria can be measured as well. But I mean, talk about the significance of DNA and mitochondria, or that elusive energy frequency that cannot be measured, but which is also part of us. Is that elusive kind of energy frequency the real secret?
Yes.
The secret,
Yeah.
because we cannot understand it fully, and
No.
scientific, I mean, scientists can certainly not talk about it. It's not something they can measure, for example. That
Yeah.
specific energy, please address that.
Yeah, I think that's a beautiful way of putting it, and it's so wonderfully put, is that it's so beyond the mind. We cannot quantify any of it. We can only see things from a point of reference. So we can only refer to which we know of, which is DNA. So if we label it as DNA, then we can then have a sort of a sensory perception of a clarity of mind. Let's say about the cell, of all that we know about the cell. But to push through that, it's beyond our greater knowing. So we can only refer to what we are shown. So when I speak of the DNA structure, I'm speaking of the genetics of the physical body makeup. when we look into the energetic perspective, the flow of energy, then it sits and resides in physicality. So we're meeting the physical and the esoteric that comes together in union that allows us to then be the light rather than be of the mind, which is logic. Identification and singularity as one being in body and mind and not all that you are. So we're moving through mind as we push through the mind control of the illusionary field, start to ignite the light within. And I've done that through my light codex because I hold all my codes that are of a frequency of light that enables me to ignite the light within the structure to hold more light and release the density within me. So we let go of the lower vibration and we rise into the light. That's it. It's very simple, but it's not.
It's a very fascinating topic.
Mm.
You generally, obviously, talk a lot about the light and that we can become the light beings we were always meant to be if we begin to remember who we really are and open up to that aspect of it. But
Yes.
what is light, the light that you talk about? Is that the great white light, the Archon soul, trap, reincarnation, recycling, karma wheel, factory that we go to the point of death? That continuing deceptive light at the end of the tunnel? Or what do you mean when you talk about light, Nicola
Yeah,
Light?
good. Yeah, it's really very interesting when we actually look at words. When we look at words, it's a perception of reality that we've learnt that we can create a point of reference, as I've just said, with everything that I've just said. When we're looking at light, we're looking at frequency. So it's if we look at the reality within, so I'm getting a bit of a download. Okay, so that. So when we look at the reality within our construct, within the matrix system, we're in a boxed reality. And within the boxed reality, we can only recycle within that boxed reality. As soon as we expand ourselves into the next bandwidth of energy, we can then expand our energetic field and not have the forced incarnational system.
So you do agree that we are experiencing the recycling of souls at the end of the tunnel with that great white light, the Archon soul harvesting trap, right?
Yes, absolutely, absolutely. And so many light workers have come here to assist the souls to rise out of the illusionary field. It's almost like a factory system, and it sounds a little bit like ooh. So I get lots of orbs come across. So you might see some lights come across. I get quite a lot of fairy energy in here.
I did
Did you
see
see
something.
Yeah,
I thought
they float about all
maybe
the
it was
time.
a mosquito, but maybe it's an
No, they
orb.
float about here. You can see it on the green background, so you might see a few lights coming in now and again. Um, but it's the hijacked system which we are releasing from. It's the illusionary field. I speak about this a lot on my YouTube channel. We must unhook and unplug from the illusionary field, reinstate our energetic field into the sovereignty of our light. The central column needs to plug into the original template. We connect back up. We expand our energetic flowing systems into the light so that we hold the amplification that we cannot then be infiltrated. It's the movement into remembering who you are into the light that enables you to connect to the inner wisdom, into the absolute free will of human mind. So we're going into higher mind, integrating into our system, and not the egoic mind that has basically the free will taken out of the system. So we think that we have, like I'm going to have a cup of water, free will. But from a greater perspective of it, do we have free will in the incarnational looping system? We do not. No.
And why did Source, God, that great creator force allow these dark entities to control this realm in the matrix, in this holographic illusionary realm that we're operating on? And where is this light trap? Is this within the fourth dimension,
Yes.
just a little bit above the third dimension,
Okay.
or where is it exactly?
Okay, I can only speak from my experience and my perspective. And if anyone's got a different sort of viewpoint on it, then I honour that. And it would be really lovely to understand your perspective also. I can only see from my perspective of things, okay? I haven't been through the looping system from a conscious perspective to truly give you an infinite answer to it. The only thing that I have a sense of wisdom within is that it is present. When we hook into the mind of this is moving through, is to accept that it is moving through the system. When you can release from the hooking of that idea that is within your belief system, you can unhook from the program. So it sounds a little bit of a curveball of so if your belief system is that you're entrapped within the system, then you're entrapped within that system. If you move outside of the box and see it for what it is, then you can then move outside of it and then have free choice and then download the information outside of it.
And you can do that while you're on this earth, in this
Yes.
physical bodysuit, while you're here on
Yes.
this timeline, before
Yes.
you leave the body at the point of death in this reality.
Yes. Yes.
And how
Because
do you do that, Nicola?
what we do is that we start to see which we are not. We start to see which we are not. And that's really important because we move through the mind. We release the energy that hooks us into a belief system which once we were. Okay. If we've been in an incarnational looping system and we're connecting to the ancestral lines and all of this, we get confused within our mind to remember who we are. We must step into our light ignition within to remember who we are. Okay. Now, can I bring some coding because then I can translate because I can get it from a high perspective rather than
Please
from
do. We've been
that.
waiting for it. Let's hear
Yeah,
it.
that. So these codes are moving beyond the spoken word of mind, and the codes that come forward will help you remember. Although it may not be consciously, there'll be something within the code that you'll be able to spark within. Okay, so these codes will help you to remember on a subconscious level of how to move into the sovereignty of your light. Okay, and then I can bring it that. And then yeah. Sumakiatan a karabesimo kush makiatan a sabakiata da ansibakiatan. It is the reignition with inside of yourself that enables you to connect to the outward forces that would have a sense of protection of your energetic field. If you could imagine that you are seeded from a galactic family and you're brought into a physical body and birthed into the illusionary field, you're birthed into a distorted illusion and you forget who you are. So the galactic forces that are above you, that are your star family, are guiding you through your primary last incarnational system, which mine would be Palladian, as I spoke about. Okay, so me as a Palladian would come into the system. I forget who I am. I'm birthed into the system. I'm programmed into the system. That's that. I go on my merry way. I forget who I am. I'm programmed. I have a belief system within the system here. There is a spark within me that is ignited into seeing who I am not. As I rise up into the fourth dimensional energetic field, moving into the illusionary field where it is most dense, because I'm starting to birth up into remembrance, I then get capped. Suppression happens. Love light happens. Spiritual ego kicks in. And then we are allowed to rise to this level of frequency of light. Okay. If we can push through the illusionary field of the lower four, we move up into then the remembrance, the journey of the wisdom within, the sparking of the language of light. Then, once we're moved through that energetic field, through that sticky patch of energy that is held within the lower four, we then are then able to be then almost like tractor beamed. And I've seen this many, many times. You're then seen by the galactic aspect of which you are. You'll then have this sort of almost like a tracker that's brought in that allows you to really shine your light, because you reclaim yourself back through the illusionary field. You claim yourself back in, you draw in all the aspects of yourself, you download the information, you embody it into your system, you release all that you are not through your energetic field and your physical body, releasing it through your breath, enabling the energy to release you the data out of the body, release it up, pop it up there in a lovely little shelf, which we might call the Akashic Records, and store the energy that is not you, that anchors you into the physicality. And once you've then got your beautiful tractor beam, it's like, we've got you now, we've got you now. Then your intensity of your inner wisdom comes in. Your higher self then can come into the embodied state. You can then anchor that into the body. You then strengthen again and again and again and again and again into the physical embodied state. In the illusion of the chaos, we observe around us, and then we start to blossom into who we are. We can anchor the light from that perspective that creates ripples into the collective energy. We start doing grid work systems upon the earth. We go to places, we download, we reverse portals, we do all this beautiful work. We start to then be online to show others how we did it through our own healing journey. We show people and guide people into their own light.
How can the viewers, or how can I do that, or other people watching this, if they want to do that now while they're still here and they want to make a conscious effort in, bypassing that whole soul trap system? How do you do that? What's the tools? Do you use meditation? Do you have to get rid of your addictions? Or, I mean, there's a lot of people who talk about this and who are into this field of talking about these things, and it seems a little bit difficult. You have to go through a lot of meditation and do a lot of inner work and all of that, but can you not just bypass it and say, I'm not going into this bad realm again?
Yeah.
Goodbye.
Do you know what? It's actually sort of very beautiful you asked that question again, is that it gets to a point where you can say, enough is enough, right? Some of us will go through the journey of remembrance, like I've spoken about. Okay, so we go through the journey like this. But then sometimes there is this little bit of almost like a little bit of a cheat code that can come in, where we can say to ourselves, okay, I can see what Nicola's been doing here. I'm open to receive the information that's coming in. I know that meditation might be a little bit tricky for me, but I'm going to have a little go. I go into myself because I hold all my answers. I hold all my keys. And I say to myself, enough is enough. Just like I did after that suicidal slap that I received. I went in and I prayed. And I said to my higher self, no more. No, enough is enough. When you hit that stage in saying no, that is the turning point. When you say no and you ask and you receive, then the information that will come forward, it will come in at increments of evolution, because you can't just get a big shot of light. You'd probably just explode, I would imagine.
So through meditation, you would have to say, I want guidance. I need help from my higher
Yes.
self, from guides,
Yes.
or what, to receive a certain message on how to do this and how to bypass this system in order to go to a totally different level of a different
Consciousness.
frequency of freedom, soul
Yeah.
freedom,
Yeah.
right? Is
Yeah.
that what you mean?
Yeah, absolutely.
And just a follow-up question, you can answer both of them. How do we know that those guides that are guiding us and coming through when we really ask for it, how do we know that they're not misleading us and are
Yes.
disinformers?
Force light. Ooh, force light. Oh my gosh, I see this time and time again. the thing is, it's so important, and I rant on about this all the time, is do not invite anything in that is not you.
But how do people know that? A lot of people who are putting themselves in this guru state, or a lot of spiritual
Mm,
teachers, even those who say, oh, the days of the gurus are over, but they are channelers. They're channeling different things, clairvoyance, and all of these people that are receiving messages. And some of them are really good
yeah,
and amazing, but some are just, really not. And there are
yeah,
some deceivers there, but they say, oh, my guides are telling me the messages I'm
this,
giving you,
yeah,
but
yeah,
how do we know that they are not communicating with deceivers and
exactly,
disinformers?
exactly, absolutely. This is why we need to be empowered. My perception is from my reality. If I give information, it's from my perspective. If you are a sovereign being, you only see it from your perspective. You are your own universe. When we see and we can just be open to receive information that comes through somebody's channeling perspective, we can look at that and take what resonates. Okay. Rather than giving away your power into, oh, Bashar says this and this is going to happen. Do Nicola says that. Woo, woo, woo. No, use it as a foundation of information that enables you to spark your own inner light and inner intelligence and be empowered all the way. Do not follow anybody. Allow yourself to see their perspective and see it for what it is. Draw upon it what resonates and then move into your own perspective.
Constant discernment.
Constant discernment.
So many people are being led into these snake charmers, or I mean these people that are kind of charming and have such grand personality, and a lot of people just lying flat on their backs and just believe the whole thing and go on these
Yeah,
retreats and all that. And I'm saying a lot of it's probably good, but we do
yeah,
know also that a lot of it is really, really bad and not very good for you. It's almost like thinking, oh, I'm so awake or aware now because you change your perception of what your life and this system we're in, what that's all about. But then suddenly they devote themselves to these so-called spiritual leaders, huh? And then nothing has
yeah,
really
yeah.
changed.
Yeah, exactly. You're going to be sort of suppressed by somebody else's energy. That's it's let's look at this from a beautiful light perspective. Is that there are stepping stones. There are stepping stones of evolution. And along the journey, you might give your power away to somebody, and that's all right because it enables you to reach the next level of evolution, to enable you to then reach the next evolution. But don't settle. So don't get hooked into connecting to Archangel Michael and only bringing in Archangel Michael. Do not just accept that there is something bigger than and more powerful than you. Allow yourself to have that experience, yes, but what's beyond that? What is beyond this? What is beyond that? What is beyond this? And so we evolve in a spiral of experience in our spirituality. We don't settle into the love and light. We deepen into our shadow. We see that we are not, to allow us to step up as we go into the newness, into the original template of the earth, ignite ourselves through all time and space back into oneness. And sometimes that's deep shadow work. Sometimes that's actually the experience of inviting in and working and seeing people doing the channeling, which they are of service. It is their truth, and their truth is their truth. If there is coming from heart, is coming from a level of consciousness, and that perception is capped there. If they identify with it, you move out of it and you move into that next layer of expansion, and there's that beautiful step and spiral up, onwards, upwards, that enables you to then grow And then from that empowered state, you connect to all that you are and you hold your light. And everything then starts to shift and ignite within you. And that's the way to move through it. Yes, there are stepping stones. Yes, I worked through my conspiracy phase of finding out about chemtrails and all of that beautiful stuff. And I was enraged. Yes, I went through that infiltration and got capped because then I saw that that is within the reality of being. Okay. I didn't stop there. I didn't move through. I didn't not move through. I shifted up into the next level and I shifted into the next level because every single time I am not going to identify with the frequency of light that I see that I can move through into the next step. I want to know what's beyond that. I want to know what's beyond that. Show me this next. And I haven't got all the answers because I'm on a journey. And every single person can do that. But you must start at the beginning by saying, enough is enough. Bring me in. Bring me in me. Bring me in me. Bring in my higher self. Bring in my inner light. Spark that within me. And this beautiful sort of mantra of I am the light I am saved me. Absolutely saved me. Because I claimed back my sense of being. I didn't go into mind. I moved into that light and it started to spark.
So what are your thoughts on, well, when you're going to leave the body and go into what? You'll probably see that tunnel of light and be presented with these people that may look like a god or a deity or your grandmother or somebody you really loved. I mean, what are you going to do then? Do you think your work here is enough for you to bypass that whole thing? And you're saying that we can all do that if we learn how and if we really ask for it. But if we bypass that, we don't go into that dimension and into the recycling factory, where do we go?
I don't know. I don't know. It would be beautiful to sort of like have all the answers for you. It's not on my inner known wisdom yet, but I know that I am so much more than this physical body. And as I work through my healing journey, and my healing journey is only my healing journey, and with me in my healing journey, I can work through the disconnection with any karmic looping systems so that I work on my forgiveness, that I move into compassion for everybody that might have said something or I might have said something. So it's basically, do we sort of talk about the what's the wording of it is, like your checkbox or have you done this, have you done that? No, life review. Do your life review in life and then you don't have to worry about doing it when you're out of your body. Do your life review now. This is what we're doing, is that we're going in deep into ourselves to see and forgive and to move forward without judgment, expectation, so that we don't have to do a life review up here, so that we bypass that light upsurge that draws you in. But we have a choice at that point of release from the physical body to move on out and choose to come back in, not to be sucked in without free will. There's a big difference here. So I don't know what my soul's going to be doing by the time I actually leave this body. But what I do know is that I will have a choice. And it's the knowing that I have a choice that empowers me into deepening into myself. Does that make sense?
Absolutely. Absolutely. That's great. A lot of people would probably like to be advised on where to go at that time. But then again, I think that's also part of your own journey while you're here to try and discover where you would like to go then, if you don't want to be recycled and come back to this prison planet here, unless you think there is something you need to do still down here. And I guess I know that some people feel that they want to come back also. But when you talk this, when you're speaking this star language, these alien, extraterrestrial or interdimensional beings that are speaking through you. I mean, what is that? How do you know that that they are not deceivers as well, that they are not disinformers talking to you, speaking in tongues, so to speak, to mislead people? And who are they? Are they the Arcturians or the Pleiadians or the Lyrans or reptilians even? I mean, who are they and how did that even come about, Nicola?
Yeah. If you could imagine so if we go into an analogy, because it's easier to sort of go into analogies. If you have an iPhone or any other phone, you would have an app that you download. Okay. When you have space on your phone to download an app, you have direct access to a frequency. Okay. If we look at it, so I have a connection to a multi-dimensional aspect that I can download into my system to express the frequency through my voice and my energetic field. So when I'm connected to my Palladian aspect, it is very nurturing energy that brings forward information for an individual to release trauma from their physical body. So Palladians is very much the energy of healing of the emotional body. If we look at my Arcturian app that can come into my system, that energy that I hold, that is a fractal of who I am, because I am everything, remember, I tap into that energy, and that energy comes through my physical body, through my sensories perception. It is expressed through the voice and energy through what I call fire codes. So these are written codes of light, just like a Reiki symbol. And these energies are moving through me in physicality, boots on the ground, from another dimension that is moved through me, and it allows me to tap into the frequency to adjust the template in their body. It's getting a bit complicated, into the body, that the projection of the body is in. So we got a physical body, but it is an illusion that it's a physical body in the first place. And within, if you could imagine, there are screens that are what I call templates. So I'm going into quite depth here. I didn't really want to go too deep into it because it might confuse people, but there's energy that sits within these screens that come into my perception as I release out of my physical body. There's a sort of a screen that runs here, which is like the central column of light. There's energy that runs across the top. There's boxes to the side here, like filing systems that I can tap into. And as I sort of draw the energy down that is me, because I am a sovereign being, I'm not inviting anything outside of myself. As I draw in the information, it superimposes into my frequency that can be translated from the person that's receiving the code to download the information through their senses. So they hear it, they feel it, they sense it. There's the upgrade if I give code. So if I'm a giver of code, the lights come in. But I'm plugging into Arcturian, Palladian, Lyran energy, and different realms of understanding. So it might be dimensional shifts of energy that is coming from more of a Lyran perspective. It's coming through all time and space. So it's very difficult to conceptualize within the mind, but we're tapping into frequency, bandwidths. And each of those will have an interpretation of a codex, and the codes may sound different. So if we've got Palladian, which is amakiato, ancora bakitene, ismea kalabasimakiatana. And then Arcturian is a little bit more, and it sounds a little bit like weird. So the ego will go like, what is that? But it holds a frequency that comes in that would be able to work in the energy. And you take this persona on because you're embodying the beingness. And that expression comes through, bypasses the mind of Nicola, because Nicola doesn't understand it, but the energy moves through me, and then I unpack it and to understand it. So my ego can rise into the knowing, into the ignition of the wisdom, because the ego is the last to to understand the whole system. From a higher perspective, I know everything.
And there's a special structure to if it's Pleiadian or Arcturian, and it sounds different. It sounds very much like the same type of languages that Judy Satori is speaking. We had her on the show as well. A lot of people might say that you are copying Judy Satori. What would you say to people that suggest that?
So do you know what? I can't even, I've been in Sweden for a year and a half and I can't speak Swedish. My capabilities of actually speaking a different language or trying to make these sounds without me slipping up would be, you know, sort of how could I copy somebody's energetic? It's not in my capability. It is a pure channel state that it is a flowing tongue.
Not a lot of people can do that, Nicola. And yet again, when you hear somebody like Judy Satori doing it quite successfully, and a lot of people are also skeptical about that. How did you get those messages? How can she even talk like that? And then you're doing the same thing. It's like a double-sided thing that it actually confirms what she's doing in a way. And then other people would say, oh, she's copying what she's doing, because not a lot of people have that ability. But how do you explain this to people? Because now, if you're a standalone, you do it by yourself, people will either love it or hate it, accept it if they feel it, and if they resonate with it. But now several people are doing it. I don't even know if there are other people who are able to use
do you know what, Lucas, honestly, so many people are igniting their light language. It's astounding. There is so many people that are starting to speak this language and they're so confused about the whole thing, or there's this resonance of energy that when you hear it, you're like, what is that? Now, if you're not ready to receive the code, then you're not ready to receive the code. You're too much in your head, or the frequency, you're not in that bandwidth. If you're ready to receive, you'll say, what's happening here? I don't understand. Mind search, you go searching into it. You want to code, you want code, you want code, you want code, input, input, input.
How do you know if it's an Arcturian speaking through you, or Pleiadian, or Lyran, or whatever? And
so
how do you understand what they're saying? How do you interpret it so that you can give the message in English to people?
Yeah, that's lovely. There's different types of codes. There are some codes that are clearing codes. Okay, so let's establish that first of all. Some codes are clearing codes. So these codes can go in and disperse dense energy to allow the unhooking. Okay, some codes will come in and activate. So those codes are not transferable. You can't translate the code into English because you'd be there all year, you know, lifetimes to explain it. But there are some codes which are remembrance codes. And I bring a lot of those codes in on my channel. I talk about those a lot because I can interpret what that frequency is coming in as much as I can through a sense of distortion within me in my interpretation. So if
it
I'm
appears with clarity within you, within your mind, within your inner understanding, your understanding that what they're saying is this or that message in English.
Yeah, so I interpret it in. So so this sort of information that is coming in, so it's just sort of showing you. I get like a download of information. So if anyone's getting this in the eyes, it's really very normal, and it sort of might feel a little bit strange. But you're downloading the information into the pineal gland so that the inner wisdom can then sort of create this sort of mind ignition. I breathe it down into the heart. And so what happens is I start then to turn on within my system the remembrance of what it is that is being displayed, relayed, presented into a sense of guidance. The energetic flow then starts to move out, but I can only perceive it to be from mind with where I'm able to connect into. So they bring a lot of visions within so that I have a perception of what is being shown to me. But my light wisdom that comes in embodies all of the codes. Okay, so it is the availability for me to move the physical body out of the system of the density that allows me to align the frequency of light down into my base chakra and moves it down into the original template. I know I'm going off a little bit off course here a little bit for you to not answer the question, but this information is coming in here to assist people to move into their original template. Okay, so it is quite irrelevant. So they're coming in a little bit like, it's quite irrelevant to the mind because the mind holds distortion, because the mind holds belief. We must push through the mind to enable us to rise into the ignition of wisdom. So the answer is actually not being actually given here to what you've just asked. It is not bypassing the information, but it is to move forward into the acceptance of the wisdom to ignite, which moves beyond the spelling of words. We must get away from spelling of words because light language is a precursor to telepathy. It is a movement out of mind because we can't conceptualize it to distort it.
Don't these alien beings use telepathy and not a language?
Yes. But how can that be interpreted to somebody that's not actually ignited that within the system?
So they do have a language.
There are some that can be interpreted into what we perceive to be a very linear language, like the Palladian, and some would hold a sense of breath. So some frequencies actually can't be completely replicated. So the transference of information that comes forward is a sense of interpretation of mind through the availability of the information that is put into the head. So Nicola holds a limited amount of space of intelligence, right? You know, I'm no guru, I'm no sort of intelligent, sort of scientific sort of person, sort of, you know, sort of quite an average intelligence of mind. But when the interpretation of the inner knowing comes forward, we can then spark this inner knowing because we hold it all up here. So we download it. So it's moving out from the lips because I only have this sense to bring in for you to receive the information. The download of information from a galactic would sound very different to my interpretation of it because I am only limited within this space of expression.
But some of the words are the same. I mean, are
Yeah.
repeated. Like you've said many times, macchiata, not macchiato, which is an Italian coffee drink. But but macchiata. I don't know if
Yeah.
that's how. But I heard you say that several times.
Da.
Does that
So
mean
and the
something
word da is like yes, which is Russian. Yes. It's really very bizarre. Sometimes when I listen to it, I'm like, hang on a minute, that sounds like this word.
Mhm.
So I
So
totally get it.
how do you know if it's a Pleiadian or an Arcturian or something else? Is that
So,
because now you know because you've gone through it a lot of times, or does it
yes.
still present itself in different ways?
So in the very beginning, I used to run my children to school, which was about a half-hour car ride. When I started in the very beginning with my light language, I used to run the children to school, drop them off, and all the way back, I would speak all these different dialects. When I got to the bottom of the drive, I would then actually speak it in English. And as I started to sort of like really sort of connect to the personality, the code, the frequency, then I then actually then had an inner standing of who are they? Okay, so the Palladians came in firstly. They are my primary connection.
And did you ask them, who are you?
Yeah, yeah. So ask and you receive. So the information, you start to get that deeper connection into yourself. You're stripping away all that you're not. You're starting to download more and more and more and more of your data, of your information, because you're creating space with letting go of all that you're not, and you're bringing all that you are in. And then that frequency that comes in gives you the remembrance, and you remember, oh my gosh, yes, that's Palladian. The Arcturians come in, and then when I'm working with people, and it's very technological, it's very template work, it's all very technical, upgrading systems, activations that come in with the Arcturians, and that's my perception of it. And then when you're working into different star systems, and different levels of consciousness of vibration, you then start to sort of look in and you say, well, actually, I don't know from my mind where that's coming from, but I know, because I'm setting my intention, that it is flowing through my heart, and I feel the frequency, that it is for the greater good for the person that I am giving code to.
You don't think that they're disinformers as well? You talked about this app system on an
Mm.
iPhone, but I mean, an iPhone is still the best way to control humanity
Yeah.
by the Secret Service. So they could easily go in, the Secret Service, that is, to give you certain ideas
Mm.
or
Mm.
even mind control through the telephone and through the
Yes.
apps. Couldn't
Yes.
these deceivers do that as well? Could be reptilian, for
Absolutely.
example. And why? Let me just also continue with this question. Um, don't you get messages from the reptilians as well, or do you only communicate with the benevolent good ones?
So it's there's so many questions within that. Let's have a look at that last one there, because I can see that's in your mind, Ducas. This reptilian. Not all reptilians are of the dark. Okay. If we look at humanity, there's a broad a spectrum of good humans and bad humans. Okay. And we perceive reptilians to be this certain way, but it's not the case.
But
From
then
my
they
position
hijack
of
the planet through the occultist and the Illuminati bloodlines.
the frequency actually is beholden of the Draco. The Draco system is actually the ones that supersede reptilian. There is a hierarchy within darkness. If we're talking about Dracos, that's a completely different thing. That's
But
a
the
no-go
Dracos
area.
are reptilian, right? And Anunnaki are supposedly reptilian as well, huh?
No, there are different fractions within fractions. Okay, so if we look at humanity, we might then get Asian people, we might get sort of maroon, we might get white, we might get, so the different fractions within fractions, with boxes within boxes within boxes with boxes. We cannot identify one and say that they're all like that. Okay,
But the
so
controllers are still reptilian, huh, though, aren't they?
yeah, the spark of the illusion is Draco. The workers within that system is that of reptilian. The movement of the energy that is within the illusionary field is siphoned out of the system. It is like a net of energy that enables the outer infiltrations to move the energy out of the Earth system. So it's not that the Dracos are actually in the system because they're out of it, because they have a sense of hierarchy within the system. But the history of it, or his story of it, was the Anunnaki that came in that had different fractions within it also. So there are many sort of things within the perception of history within this now moment that we could analyze with our minds and judge it for what it is and what it was and what it may be. the real depth of it is not necessarily the history of it and the conception of it, is that yes, we know that there is an illusionary field. That's it. The more that we can complicate within our minds of that reality to try and unpick and identify where it comes from, which is human wants and needs, the more that we dive into the rabbit hole, into the illusionary field, the more we can anchor into, I see this, I see this. I focus on the light. I focus on the light so that I can move through the illusionary field. And I know that there is darkness. I know that there are systems of the reptilian frequencies that are of dark, but there are many that are actually of light. And we must sort of sustain and understand this.
We only hear basically about the reptilian
Mm,
controllers, those
yeah,
that some former mind control victims have seen shapeshift, and
yeah,
some of these high profiled top elitist,
yes,
they are part of this satanic realm and these circles doing these child sacrifices and other
yes,
horrifying things,
oof,
and
yes,
orchestrating the wars and
yeah,
whatever we're going through here on this
mm,
planet. A lot of
yes,
them
there
say
are.
that they are Anunnaki or reptilian draconians, right?
It is a lineage. Yes, there is a lineage within it, a connection into the structure of the physicality that is connected at more of a primary perspective of dark reptilian forces, just like I'm from a Palladian aspect, primary perspective.
Don't those reptilian Dracos or Anunnaki, don't they want to talk or speak through you as well or contact you?
They did when I was infiltrated, but I do not allow that density to run through me. No, I was capped within that to disenable my abilities to assist people to rise. So my intentions are pure of heart to allow people to become sovereign and empowered. And so why would I allow in my sovereignty to converse with a dark force?
What if they're presenting themselves as being a being of light and making you feel good, like those
Mm,
archons at the tunnel of light?
yes. This is the thing, isn't it? Is that we must become empowered because we have free will when we claim back our sovereignty. When we claim back our sovereignty so deeply and strongly that we know who we are, then there is no way that that energy is going to enter the energetic field. When we move into, I'm going to bring in this because it's going to make me feel better, that energy will have an availability for infiltration. It's the strengthening of the energetic field that enables you to move forward into the sovereignty of light because we are creator beings. If we are creator being and we do not consent to the connection to a darker force, there is no way that I'm going to bring that forward because my intention is my word. And so, with that, my strength enables me to bring in the full force of my light. This is which we need to really focus upon is the empowerment of the soul. It is the reconnection to see the dark, but to focus on the light, to remember who we are. And then the infiltration cannot come forward because it cannot penetrate the energetic field. The false light cannot be contained within my unit because I do not allow, because my word is my truth. I am a creator, and so is everyone else. And I really want people to be so empowered. So if my light codes come in to empower you, then my codes are to empower you. That is
You,
that.
yes, yes. And you also claim to be a near-death experiencer and a
Mm.
walk-in. Please explain that, both of them, actually. What happened? Did you die and then come back and see things, or was that at that time when you were suicidal, or what
No.
happened? And in what way are you a walk-in?
Yes, it's a very interesting sort of another sort of perception of reality and identification of what is a walking. It's a very interesting sort of experience. So when I was around about 5 or 6, I was on the beach and I jumped into a big pool of water and I went under the water and I found myself sort of awakened into a group of people around me at that sort of very young age. I remember sort of like stepping on and off and then sort of coming back in. And my mum sort of used to talk about the story of when I drowned and they brought me, this young guy came in and gave me a resuscitation. So I sort of went over and then I came back into the reality. And I always remember as a child that I was really scared of being seen. I used to go out and I used to sort of like be sort of scared of dark. I remember going out with a torchlight, going out for a walk with the dogs for my dad, and then switching the light off because I didn't want to be found. So I always had this sort of subconscious, like cloaking system over me. The walking is a perception of reality that another soul will come into the energetic field that that overtakes the physical body. That's one type of walking system. When it comes into an upgrade of energy, there's also an amplified walking of your consciousness, upgrading and shifting you into another availability for you to connect to, meaning connecting to your multidimensionality, which is a sense of walking. Again, remember, we're using words, so words can be interpreted in different ways and different truths. So a walk-in, from my perspective, was is that definitely at that point of where I was through that suicidal position, I downloaded an awful lot of more of me into my system to spark. And the more of me that came in held a sense of walk in. I am not what I would perceive to be a total reshift, new walk in, new soul transference into this physical body. I get to a stage of where my higher self says, do you want in or out? And I then move forward into, no, I want to upgrade my system. And I move into a greater know over myself because I've reached, so within our system, there's so much information that I want to give you. It feels like I'm going all over the place. But within our experience, we have a quota. Okay. A quota of a tick box of have you achieved this? Yes, 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 yes. When you've received this on your mission work, that you've received this, then you can either shift out of the reality and then have that availability for a walk-in to come into the physicality, or you can upgrade the energy where you can then hold more light into the system where you get a download of information and you get an upsurge of information also. So I've had all of these sort of different experiences from my perspective of truth, and that everybody can reach that level of movement into who they truly are by bringing in more in walking energy to enable you to and and grow into. Does that make sense? So it's like there's so much forces behind this reality and this physical body and mind that we can't even perceive and put it into words what's actually going in the background. But I just know that the walking is an upgraded version of myself, but not a total transference of energy, if that makes sense.
So now that you're doing all of this and you're
Mm,
going through all of these things and you're receiving the star language, you're working
mm,
with yourself and you're working with clients, I suppose, also as a teacher. How about the ego? A lot of people also in this field talk
mm,
about the ego, the problem with the ego, the positive aspect of the ego, and how to work with the ego. A lot of
mm,
people say we have to get rid of the ego. We have to experience an ego death. But what are your thoughts on that?
mm. It's an interesting subject in that the ego is the human, it is the child. It's the child of what we call child of God. Okay. The ego is the little child upon the planet that really doesn't have a clue who they are. The multidimensional aspects of self that is outside of the ego wants to join the ego in the body so that the ego rises into remembrance. If we have an ego death, then the ego's job is deleted from the system. Now, the ego's job is to keep us safe. If we didn't have the ego and we walked down a dark alleyway, we wouldn't have that discernment into judging the energy of this frequency or that frequency, or like you say, whether we've got a dark force. The ego keeps me safe. It is discerning. So what I do is I upgrade my ego because my ego is my mind. The ascension process is the evolution of the soul's journey of the ego. We must embrace the ego, love the ego, move the ego into a rising perspective of self, not spiritual ego. That's a completely different thing. That's like, oh my God, I'm so amazing. Follow me, follow me, follow me. No, that is not that. The ego is to keep us safe. The ego is to understand the inner wisdom of the light. It's the higher self integrated into the system of physicality. And the ego computes and runs the physical body. And we must allow the ego to work with the physical body because the physical body is a different entity in itself. It is this beautiful software that we need to allow to actually do its own job without over controlling the physical body. And we hold on to all that data in our physical body, and then the disease kicks in because it's not running correctly. So we must let go of the ego mind for running the show, not allow the body to overcompensate with that mind body, and allow that energy to move through us, the conscious connection of who we are, and emanating it from the heart intelligence. And there is the ego integration. When we see it, we experience it. When we experience it, then the ego upgrades. We have that true truth within us because we walked through that path, because we've experienced it, and not just hearsay from somebody else say, do this, this, and this. We must experience. And once we've experienced, then we totally understand from mind. So the ego must be upgraded with unpacking the experience so that the ego can go like, oh, okay, that's interesting. Okay, that's a little bit weird. Okay. So we
people
move
can actually
that.
use the term ego and their ego in a good and a positive way and not be too scared about it.
Yeah, absolutely. It's I see my ego as she keeps me safe. She runs the show within my human. I see who I'm not through my ego. My ego is the programming. My ego is my belief system. My ego is what holds on to things. And the more I upsurge and download the higher self, that intelligence, that wisdom within, the ego settles into, oh, okay, high self, you show me the way. And this is what we speak about with the spiritual journey is, okay, I follow higher self. It's not that it's something outside of yourself. You are higher self. Higher self comes into the embodied state, clicks in. So you follow yourself. It's almost like a second behind the ego. So the ego is a second behind higher self. I am guided through me to experience. Everything is presented for me rather than the ego coming in. You see what I mean? So there's a beautiful balance that comes into the system when we can use ego to, is this the right thing to do from ego, or is this being shown to me? And there's the choice point of duality. Do I connect with a lower vibration here and choose and honor to experience the human, or do I rise into higher perspective? I have choice at this point. So the ego is, I feel, within my perspective, is to be embraced and to be nurtured.
Right, great, and a great message. But you've also said that it is really important right now to for us all to gather to gather together, stand together now during these difficult times, and we are at a very pivotal and strange era right
Mm.
now. But it seems almost impossible because there is a lot of ego in this field of both spiritual and esoteric research, and certainly within the conspiracy and truth field.
Yeah.
And there's a lot of infighting. So it seems like there's a lot of awake people that now understand the world is different from what they were led to believe and brought up to
Mm.
understand, but they're still kind of in a way doing the elite's work, right? With this whole Hegelian dialectic, divide and conquer, splitting. I believe in this, I believe in this, and all
Mm.
of these groups that are so-called awake, they can't even work together. We're
No,
all
no.
experiencing that at the moment. It's incredible. I mean, isn't it outrageous?
Totally, totally, totally. And I see it, I see it with people that I've worked with, and sort of help them move into their spirituality and their awakening, show them the journey, and then all of a sudden they're like, oh, I'm in spiritual ego. And when it gets into that spiritual ego, then you'll see it very, very clearly. These people will be in a case, and there's no judgment of it. And remember, I said stepping stone is that these people are there to help shift people into a bandwidth, but don't allow anybody to empower you. As soon as you, not empower you, so as soon as you see them say, follow me, I am this, I am that, I am this, I know everything, come to me because I know everything. It's my biggest bugbear, it's like, no, please don't be empowered. Please be empowered. Don't give your energy away to anyone that says that they can rescue you. You are the only person that can do your own inner work.
But there's also a
Use,
lot of infighting. I mean, even in the
oh,
same
yeah.
groups that
Mm,
that believe the same thing and supposedly are working for the same thing and going
yeah,
on the street protesting or whatever
yeah,
field it is, if it's the alien field or medical field or truth research and all that. I
yeah,
mean, infighting is really a thing. It's
yeah,
incredible to see
it
that
is.
even in this day and age.
It's a journey, Lucas. It really is a journey within it. And the more of us that push through into the sovereignty of light, the more we can ripple the energy out for others to jump onto almost in the collective form. So as we push in from our own sovereignty, we can join forces with those that hold same sovereignty, that aren't creating fractions. And then that energy can ripple out into the collective. But it's done in increments of sequences with the universal systems that are happening with bombardment of, the sun recently has been crazy. So outward forces of the galactic celestial beingness that come in to assess Gaia with us that are upon the planetary system comes in. But we to come together in sovereignty is the most effective way, but not to judge anyone that is judging, because then you become the judger. So we hold our truth within, and this is beautiful age of truth. Beautiful, absolutely beautiful, because it is the truth that it is not of judgment of others. It's the acceptance of, it's the not quite ready for that information yet. Let me pop it up on the shelf there for a moment. It's the openness. And the more that we can become that, the more we claim back our sovereignty, the more that we expand into that, the more that the rise of the collective starts to come up in the evolution. And then we hold that. We hold it for those that aren't quite ready for the fullness of their light. And there's the evolution of humanity. And some will make it and some will won't in this lifetime. and some will evolve and push through, and some will settle. But that's the journey of it, because it's this beautiful synergy between all fractals.
So we are experiencing, like what you just said, that word synergy, kind of a synergy between darkness and light. And supposedly this is some kind of a prison planet, even though there are so many beautiful things here as well. And we have to
Yeah.
work through all of that as well. But in order to understand it, we also have to face the darkness and not only talk about the light. But I mean, if we are entrapped here, or we are facing all of this madness happening through the political system, the monetary system, the medical system, all of it, you name it, all of it, really. I mean, what about these benevolent, good beings, extraterrestrials, interdimensionals that communicate through you and others? Why don't they help? And we always hear about, okay, well, they're helping, it's tomorrow, next week, whatever. There's a shift in consciousness. And there is a shift in consciousness. I will agree on that. And there certainly has been an enormous change in the last 13 years that we've been doing this show. Enormous change. But I mean, I'm just thinking, when are we going to see that change radically, and when are they going to help?
Yeah, absolutely. It's a question that actually came into my mind the other day when I was speaking to Thomas about it. Is, well, why aren't they coming down to help then? You've got all of these sort of dark infiltrations coming in. What, why is it that, that these lighter beings don't come upon the planet and stand upon it, to hold that light? It's a very complicated sort of answer to that. Yeah, sumakianta da ale sumakiatan a kiant kianta a. Are we not already here? Are we not already here through us? We are holding the light. The more that we become our true sovereign selves, the more we step into Palladian self, the more we're embodying all that we are, that is the light upon the planet. We're coming into the system.
Directly? Can you ask several of them directly? Why are they not helping in the way that is like where we would really see it manifesting on this planet for the better?
Yeah, okay, let me just sort of tap into that question within why aren't they there? Because I really want to know as well, Lucas. Sort of like there are moments within my ego. I was like, well, come on then, beam down, yeah. It is a question that is asked by many lips. So my ego's kicking in now because I feel a little bit pressurized with an answer. Yeah. If we look at the frequencies of light that is being held upon the planet, the perception of reality that we hold within ourselves is that of light. But the light that is coming in from our frequencies of light is far beyond the capabilities of the planetary system to be held within the planet itself. The interjection of energy that is held within the system cannot sustain the light that is held within our system. So to enable us to land upon the planet, upon the foot, would be a detriment to the system of the planetary system. So in other words, it's basically what they're saying is that if they actually stood upon the planet, it would create such chaos because of the frequency which they hold in an embodied state. They cannot literally come in until we upgrade the grid work system to enable a pocket of energy that will enable them to come in to be holding the sustainability of the land. So if they land, the light that they hold within their conduit cannot be attained within the system because of the density within it. Do you see what I mean?
Yeah, so but can they just hold back a little bit? Can they just hold back some of that light and some of that energy and just get rid of all the bad stuff? Apparently, the bad aliens, the Dracos or whatever, they can certainly operate this field. Why are they allowed?
Because they've manipulated a hijack system.
But can these benevolent good beings just manipulate it in a good way to get rid of all of that so that we'll finally see some of that goodness come into fruition?
Da che si macchiata, we are. There is so much that's going on into the planetary system that it's far beyond the recognition into the mind in this now moment. There is so much work that is being done in the back end of the system that will allow the transference in the linear time to land into reality. Because we're in time space, we cannot move the energy in time in an instant because of the capabilities of this, the sustainability of the complexity of the movement of the energy that is moving from one perspective to another perspective because we're in such a dualistic experience that it's a technological disaster that it just cannot be because of so I'm trying to conceptualize it myself as I speak the word. But what they're showing me is that it would create more chaos upon the planet with the interjection of the energy until we raise the planetary system up enough to enable these portals of exchange to come in to sustain the landmass, to enable us to raise, to sustain the energy without a distortion of light into the distorted field. So there needs to be a tipping point for them to land to enable the movement of the light to come in because of the light forces hold the free will directive and not the infiltration of siphoning off energy of free will of humanity. So
So what is the state of the planet right now? Where are we now? Are we on the brink of becoming massively enslaved through war and Agenda 21 and the
mm,
tightened grip of the New World Order occultist?
yeah, it is a perception of reality that creates a reality. If we have a belief system that that is the case, then that is the case for your directive. The
But a
more
lot
that
of
we
people on this planet, let's say the normal people, are not awake
yes.
about, and all of these people are calling out people who are asking critical questions. They're calling them, labeling them conspiracy theorists, people waking up to this truth and know how it all fits together, all of those dark puzzle pieces and also the good
Mm,
ones. But I mean, a lot of these normal people, they don't even accept that there is a new world order. They don't accept that there is an Agenda 21. They don't accept that whole climate agenda and all of what has happened also in the last 4 years. We know what that
yeah.
is. But I mean,
Split.
so how can they create the collective if they don't even believe that it's happening?
Yeah. So within my perception of reality, of my inner standing of light, is that I see that there is a movement of consciousness between the people that are unable to sustain that sense of wisdom within. They're completely shut down within the system. So we got those people that are over there. We have people that are moving into the remembrance, so they start to awaken into the light, which is almost like this sort of rainbow bridge. So you've got people in 3D reality, that's their perception, that's the illusionary field that they tap into, that's their creation of truth. We awaken through the journey and we rise into and we move through the fourth. So we're going through that sticky patch of the lower fourth, right? We reclaim ourselves back. Then we start to tip into a fifth dimensional energetic field. But we're moving from 5 to 3 over 4, all this fourth, back and forth. And that sustainability to be held into the fifth dimension is not attainable in this now moment. For some, when we gather and upgrade each other in our reality, there are some that can sustain a fifth dimensional anchorage. Otherwise, we are unpacking and deconstructing from the old system, which is the letting go from mind control that we are in this hijack system at all. So we must do our inner work to sustain a 5D reality construct to enable us to be in totally in that construct where we move into a different dimension of reality, but there is no connection to the third dimension through the fourth bridge that keeps us connected into the illusionary field. So as we raise in our vibration and connect to all that we are, we can sustain our energy in a fifth dimensional energetic force, upgrading the physical body to enable us to sustain the energy in an absolute fifth dimensional energetic field of heaven on earth, anchoring into the original template, being the true of force of light that you are, which then disengages the bridge. You move through the dimension of fourth into and sustain the fifth dimensional frequency of light to move into the bridge of sixth into seventh. That's the evolution of a soul's journey. It's all this back and forth that is creating the instability for us to keep seeing the third dimensional play out. But the more we focus over that bridge, I'm going over that bridge, I'm going over that bridge, the more we can focus there and anchor into that reality, then the more we're over that side of the fourth dimension and not so much anchoring over that side. Does that make sense? Like a little visual perspective of reality. So if we're adding to the fifth dimension into the light, that pot of gold at the end of the rainbow, then we're going to focus there. We're going to download all that beautiful frequency to sustain that energy.
People would probably love to have some kind of a tool, and I guess you can advise them or teach them if they consult you or work with you in one way or the other, and you can tell people how they can contact you. But here in our remaining moments, what is the takeaway from all of this, Nicola? What do people do now? What is the way ahead? What is your best advice for people who's been listening to all of this and watching everything you've said?
Is to breathe. Okay. The simplicity is the best. Is to breathe in not only breath, but to breathe in light. Okay. Is to be aware of your energetic field so that you can sustain that energy, to honor the emotions, to honor the darkness within, so that you can release it by saying enough is enough and move out of the physical body, all of that using your breath. The breath is the key. The breath is life force. The breath is everything. So if anything that you can do to sustain your energy is to breathe in the light, to move the energy that's of density out of you by in your meditations, any of it, that would be my absolute key. That's the absolute key to my rise.
Is that also a tool to not become hijacked by AI, artificial intelligence?
There is different answers to that question. The movement of the breath would enable you to sustain the frequency of light to embody it. So we breathe in consciousness. It's nothing to do with AI systems. If you have a running system of AI intelligence within your energetic field, you wouldn't even be listening to your channel. If there's an infiltration that is embarking you on the journey into remembrance, it's probably more of a structure of seeing the shadow within. An AI construct is actually something that would actually create more of a mind control into the old, like the 3D people, switched off people. So they're running that sort of program. So I wouldn't be overly concerned to an extent, not to go into, we haven't got enough time to go into that subject deeply. So I wouldn't worry or have fear within an AI structure other than pushing through the mind, which is the illusionary field, is the thinking. So we must heart, simplify it, breathe, focus on heart. That's it. I hold an awful lot of information on my YouTube channel, which is Nicola Light. And I talk about, if you sort of like look at the years of information that I've brought forward, you'll see my soul growth as I've, like I say the same information, but I intensify the information. It's all about moving the physical body, really get in touch with your energetic flow, seeing the emotion and honoring it, saying enough is enough, moving it, shifting it, being really intention setting into what it is that you desire, really focus on that, lighting it up, and then moving through the mind, looking at the subconscious. So I invite people to come and have a look on my YouTube channel, but there's lots of teachings. I use my whiteboard an awful lot and get some light codes coming in so I can spark some inspiration within you. There's light codes transmissions also that you can tap into that that some people may be ready for, some people may not be. But all the power is within. If you feel drawn to my energy, then you've been presented with me. If you don't get who I am and start to judge it, you're not ready for it. And that's okay. We're all evolutionary in our understanding. Just park me on a little shelf back up there and come and see me in a couple of years. And you'll probably say, oh, actually, I get what she's talking about now. If I would have spoken about all of this 5 years ago, I would have gone like, she's a right nutter. So just be open to receive and just use your breath, simplify everything, walk in nature, get in the water, go for a swim, go hug a tree, really just simplifies. Just get out of that mind, settle into the heart and just breathe it in. Just have be grateful. These beautiful little snippets and journal, which take it back to basic foundational information. All this information I've given you here is sort of forward thinking for many people and probably stretching a lot of people, but take it back into that sort of beautiful sense of just being. And then you'll start to see, as you ignite within you, these deep realizations of like, why and how do I even know this information? My intuition starts to spark within me. And I love that. I love my fear. I love my anger. Thank you for triggering me. Thank you for being my mirror. Thank you seeing what I am not to enable me to grow into the full fruition of who I truly am and to anchor that into the system so that I can then start to affect the energetic field so that our Palladian beautiful galactic beings can land upon the planet. We're setting up the gridwork system so that we can bring in these pockets and fields of energies by coming together in communities to create these beautiful light centers. This is what many people are coming into community, to community living, so that we can sustain this beautiful living because we're anchoring it into creating the new. We must create the new financial system, the new educational system, but we must do this together. We have to let go of the old system, but we must bring in the new. And many of our missions are to bring in the new educational systems to help the children, the light children that are coming in, the generational shift that will shift humanity. We must bring in the financial system. We must bring in the medical system so that we prevent rather than cure. It's about the food, the healthy, conscious eating. Everybody holds a key into creating the new. So do what you came here to be rather than the illusion that you are not. And that is that, isn't it?
Absolutely a wonderful and beautiful message. And it's great. Well, everything you just said here. How can people contact you? Do you have a website?
So it's nicolalight.com. So you can go there and have a little look at my offerings. I have a light channel, so Nicola Light YouTube. So there's lots of free content on there. I also have, if somebody's sort of ignited their light language, I have some courses on Udemy. So I have 3 courses on Udemy that have assisted so many people in the understanding of what it is that they're doing when they start speaking. So there are many ways. Also on Facebook. I have a little TikTok. So there's some little things on Instagram that I have, but my main sort of focus is on YouTube, which is growing, small little groups of, sort of people coming together. Um, so yeah, visit me on YouTube, have a little look at the work that I bring forward, and then if I resonate, I also do group work as well, which are on my website that you can connect with those group works, and they're really lovely, especially if you've ignited your light language. We'll do light language groups and also connection groups of high frequencies of light. So I bring some healing codes in for that. So it's good for different people in different sort of phases of their journey. So I'm here, you know.
Great. That's absolutely wonderful and fascinating. And it's been 2+ amazing hours that we've spent here together. And I think we discussed a lot, and I'm sure we can discuss more another time.
Mm,
But time's been running fast here, and it's been
it is.
exciting and wonderful to
Yes.
have you on the show. And I want to thank you very much, Nicola Light, for being on Age of Truth TV.
Thank you. It's so lovely to be here. Thank you so much for letting me express myself. And yes, and it's so beautiful. It's so beautiful that so many people are moving into in seeing themselves. So, be empowered all the way. Don't give your power away to anybody. Just let people guide you to an extent, but always maintain your power.
Yes, that's
You
great.
was pushing me sometimes, which I love so much, but my ego was going.
Was it all
um,
right? That's what I'm known to
yeah,
do.
and it must be so beautiful for you to really sort of talk to all of these different people's truths along the way, and you sort of it's just such a wonderful position that you find yourself in, is to really explore all of that. It's beautiful.
It's been a journey you couldn't describe to anybody, and all these amazing people, the greatest
Yeah,
teachers and thinkers in these different fields.
yeah.
It's quite a privilege.
Yeah, thank you
Right.
so much for your time also. It's been really lovely. Your energy is so beautiful. Yeah, I would love to actually connect with you sort of in person, and then sort of like, sort of look more into your energy to just sort of, I don't know why I've said that, but yeah, if any time you want me to sort of go in, sort of from a private perspective, to sort of for me to sort of anchor in some more light for you, then it'd be my privilege to do so. You give an awful lot of service to people, so it would be a wonderful energy exchange if you would ever want to do that. Just have that as an open invitation.
Thank you
Um,
so much. That's really nice of
yeah,
you. Thank you so much. And likewise, I really enjoyed this thing, and I think we connect very well, and it's wonderful. And
yeah,
I'd love to see you in person as well. So let's make that happen. Certainly,
yes.
absolutely.
Yeah, definitely, definitely. We're so close. We're so close. So it would be a shame not to. Feel a big soul brother connection with you. So it would be good to explore that deeper, to ignite that remembrance for you and for myself. Um,
Great. I
mm,
feel the same. So it's wonderful.
yeah. Mm.
Thank you so much to Nicola Light, and thanks to all of you for watching Age of Truth TV. You can support us by clicking onto our website, ageoftruth.tv. And please like our videos, subscribe to our channel, and hit the bell for notifications. You can sign up for our newsletter on our website, ageoftruth.tv as well. Please also subscribe to our alternative channels on BitChute and Brighteon. Your support is greatly appreciated and very needed. On behalf of the Age of Truth TV team, we thank you so much for watching, and we'll see you again soon.